Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Legion beta video. Today, I've got a brand new feature to show you, the action camera. Now this video comes in two parts. First, I'm going to talk about what it is, and then we're going to hop in game for a closer look at how it operates. So this appeared on the Legion beta servers and is accessible via console commands, but not anywhere in Blizzard's own user interface. So the functionality is there, but it isn't really being used. It's not a front-facing feature for users to test. Bearing that in mind, take this video with a pinch of salt. I'd imagine that if this were to become a game feature, it A, would be optional, and B, would work better than it does currently. So what is this action camera? Well, it's just that. It's a camera setting that emphasizes the action on screen. World of Warcraft uses a very static camera normally as far as the perspective goes, right? It's just locked behind your character and it doesn't do anything that exciting. Now, imagine a game like Mass Effect 3 or Metal Gear Rising, God of War, Uncharted, any action game really that's third person, with a camera like World of Warcraft's camera. It would really suck. Those games have cameras that dramatically frame the player's character in a way that follows the rule of thirds. It kind of creates this really nice perspective effect. It does a good job of placing the player in the world, emphasizing scale. You know, the player's to the left of the frame, looking towards the center of the frame with lots of space to the right of them. That just creates this lovely big picture. In most games, that's something that's really used to emphasize the combat and connect the player with the motion of the character more. The World of Warcraft action camera is trying to mimic that. The first thing you notice is that the camera is framed on the left of the screen and the behavior of the camera when panning is a little bit different. This is an industry standard composition for action games and for very good reason. As I covered above, it emphasizes depth, it makes each frame, I think, a far more visually pleasing image, and it gives your character more dimension. You're seeing them slightly at an angle rather than just straight behind. That actually gives a lot more physicality to your character, both to their animations, but also you can see more depth in them. You can see more of their armor, more of your transmog, and it just is a bit more satisfying. The WoW action camera also behaves differently when you zoom out. Rather than going back in a straight line, it somewhat does a curve thing. Now this does an excellent job of emphasizing the scale of the world and again creates a scene composition that really is quite nice to look at. Now of course, many, hell most of the comments in this video are going to be pointing out how this is useless for dungeons and raids. Well, I disagree for dungeons bar Mythic Plus, but fine, you're definitely right. This is not suited for high-end content like raids, and this camera would not work out well there. And that's fine, it doesn't have to. Legion has far more of a focus on world content. Or at least Blizzard have decided to bother with world content, as opposed to Warlords. And really that is the kind of content where this camera style shines. I've really enjoyed leveling with this camera mode enabled. Legion also brings with it a revamp to the game's animations. The old animations would look terrible with this camera, but I can certainly say that playing a Fury Warrior with a new camera method has been a pretty brilliant experience. I do have to wonder if they will add controller support to go along with this camera method. Of course, controllers are not going to be a good solution for high-end raiding or PvP, but as I ended up kind of proving with the past video, they can get the job done and be quite comfortable for world content or low-end dungeon content. But anyway, let's jump in game and look at the specifics. Okay, well, time to hop in game and have a little bit more of a closer look at how this camera works. So I've got it enabled on its default full mode, that is with all features turned on, including head bob and a few other things. So let's just run around with this level of zoom and see what it feels like. As you can see, I think the character's framed in a more dramatic way, it emphasizes scale, and because you're a bit closer to your character and looking in on an angle, I think there's a bit more depth to your character. You can really appreciate the armor that you're wearing. That's certainly something that's quite cool, and I feel like, I don't know, my character, especially given this gear, is just going to turn into Raiden any minute, pull out a katana and start slashing stuff like it's a Metal Gear Rising, but anyway, that's not the case. Now, there is a setting on here called Focus, and this allows you to basically make it so that it will focus on a target like this. As you can see, my camera is now panning around this target. Right now, it's a little bit weird because, well, these are just regular mobs. I've actually found that when I was doing boss fights, having this focus thing on was kind of helpful. It just, I don't know, it kept the camera on the boss, I suppose, a little bit. But that, again, can aid for a more sort of dramatic way of the frame looking. It's just nice and handy here, you know, with these and very easy to kill mobs. Just to give you a look at what it's like. And you can also appreciate some of the animations a little bit more. So if I walk up to this guy, you know, fully shot him in the head. I think that is, on a fundamental level, a lot more satisfying than if we do this. So I just do slash console action cam off. I think what I just did before was a lot more satisfying than this, because I think it's framed in a more dramatic and interesting manner. So I'll just put that back on to full, which gives us, full by the way, gives us a little bit of head bob. I don't like head bob. I think the head bob is only really when you are when you're in first person mode there. I don't really know why you use first person mode, if I'm completely honest with you. But yeah, the full mode gives you this looking functionality and the head bob. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and turn off looking. I do that by typing in focus off. So there we go, focus off. Sorry, no, it's focus on. The like syntax for it's a little bit strange. So focus on, and now we have our same camera that is like this. However, it does not do anything special when I am targeting something, and the camera isn't being pulled all over the place. I think realistically, if you were using it in-game, this is more what you would actually be going with. So it also does work when you're zoomed out a little bit more. I think this really does give you a great deal of like scale to the scene, which is quite nice. I mean, I'm in the Blasted Lands. This is a boring place, right? But I think it actually works really well with this camera. And in a minute, I'll take you into Dalaran and then into some of the Legionaries to show you what it's like, and again, show you as well what it's like being a melee character with amazing animations in the form of the Fury Warrior, and how that's a very satisfying gameplay experience. I think really does a lot of benefit for the game. And here we are in Dalaran on my warrior. I've just decided to zoom in a little bit more to give you just a bit of scale on those weapons, which I think are looking pretty damn cool. So I'm going to turn on Action Cam Full Mode, which means we will be sort of panning around to our different targets. So if I just click around on players here, you can see the camera sort of looks around the place. I can just wait for somebody. If I can just find somebody who's going to be running past my character. There we go. This Warlock. No, are you going to do the job, Warlock? No, you're not. Great, another useless Warlock. This Gnome. Yeah, so as you can see, the camera can kind of track people a little bit. I don't really know why you'd want to use that for a gameplay sense, but certainly as a content creator, I'm just seeing a wealth of possibilities in terms of efficient ways to film footage that is a more satisfying viewing experience for you guys. And of course, there will be a balance that I'll need to strike between it being satisfying and fun to watch versus just being sickening, which, quite obviously, would be a bit shit. Anyway, that's Dalaran looked at, so I'm going to go take a Griffin, and we'll probably go into one or two of the Legion zones, fight some mobs just to see what combat is like on the Fury Warrior. Okay, so I'm going to fly to Thunder Totem in High Mountain. Now, first of all, one thing you'll notice with the action camera, the composition of just being on a flight is far more interesting. I think there's more scale. If I compare this from, I will just do action cam off. Oh, this is boring, right? But if we put that on, full even, I think that's more interesting. Then when you move the camera around, you get that sense of scale sort of built up around the world. I think it really is quite effective. Far more interesting than this, certainly. I think it comes down to just a little bit of how parallax works, because I'm doing the game dev stuff myself. I've been involved in scene composition and dealing with cameras and making that look engaging to the eye. And, well, while, say, this action cam doesn't suit many of the use cases of players in World of Warcraft, I think it's a cool option, and perhaps it's something that they could clean up and make usable over time. And here we are in the, I think, always very pretty looking High Mountain, definitely one of my favorite zones in Legion. I suppose there are only 4 zones, so it's not really much saying one of them is my favorite, but in some ways they kind of all are. They're 4 extremely good zones that are roughly on par with each other. Okay then, so, first of all, look how small my character feels in comparison to these Tauren. You never really grasp the size differences, but when you have your character framed, imagine like in Mass Effect when you're running around as Shepard and there's a bunch of Krogans everywhere and the Krogans look bloody massive. The same effect that achieved that in Mass Effect is what's at play right now with the World of Warcraft camera, and I think it is indeed a lot more engaging and just makes this world feel so much bigger. And that really is something that I'm quite a fan of, as much as there are some concerns over feasibility. At the end of the day, if you're just going through the world, minding your own business, killing some mobs, maybe you're just going to prefer doing it in a more visually pleasing manner, a more fun manner that really emphasizes the action of what your class is doing. Anyhow, let's go find something to bash with my big swords. Okay then, so I found a peaceful stag here that is completely minding its own business. Let's charge into it and carve it into pieces. First of all, look at charge. Just look how good this looks. That is so much more interesting to look at. Okay, we now have a problem where, yeah, great job, Blizzard. The stag is inside me. / I'm inside the stag. Oh, I'm pretty sure that's illegal in most states. Oh well. You can see though, like, this is so much more action-oriented, right? It's just so much more, I think, pleasing to the eye, grabs you a lot more, looks more interesting. You'll notice that to make this look particularly cool, though, I have hidden my UI, and that is certainly one thing that I would say. Games like Mass Effect, etc., you know, they have a UI that works with their camera. The World of Warcraft UI does not really work with a camera of this style. It's just, you know, it's an older style UI that's designed for something a little bit different. So what I'm probably going to do, and this might make it into a future video, is do a complete UI overhaul. Hopefully I won't need to learn any Lua, because that would make me sad. I don't really have the time to do that, but, you know, we'll see what we can do to maybe make a UI that is a lot more minimal, a lot more contextual, and that actually works with a, you know, a camera style like this in-game. Oh, another slight problem is I am running into some lag at the minute, so one thing I do want you to pay attention to, though, is look at the background, okay? So if you look at the background and then see how I move, the parallax effect there is quite exaggerated when you're viewing it from this angle with the way that this camera is working. Again, something that makes the world feel quite a bit larger. There are some more things that I still need to show you, though, with this camera. So first of all, here's some Drogbar. And just imagine, put yourself in the position of somebody who's designing enemies in a game like World of Warcraft. As we all know, there really isn't any sense of scale when it comes to enemies, so no matter how big these guys are, in terms of how players actually experience the game, they may as well not be. With a camera like this, though, your vision of this big, scary dude that your character looks like a complete badass, you know, while they kill, that vision, I think, is far more preserved. Another thing to notice is that the camera does move in line with my weapon, so if I hit 3 now, you can see that the camera slightly moves to match the motion of my camera, and then, you know, as I weave attacks, well, not attacks, like, as I weave, you know, enemies together, it sort of just makes this really fluid feel to the combat. Quite a bit better. And I suppose that really is the vast majority of what I wanted to cover with this video. I think it's a really interesting topic. I'm a little bit concerned that people will just say, you know, oh, this is only for, you know, noobs and idiots and people who aren't mythic raiders, whatever. Or, you know, because it's not going to be ideal in a mythic dungeon, that it's therefore the worst thing ever and only used by stupid people. You know how communities sometimes get over stuff that's efficient versus not efficient. Sometimes it's good for games to be designed to be fun. Ever thought about it that way? Yeah, I think this is something that's fun, that's a really cool idea, and I cannot wait to see where they're going with it, because this isn't available via the camera. I go here, I look at camera, oh, where is it? It's not there. That means that this clearly is not something that they really want people to be testing. It's functionality that came with this build of the game, but perhaps not functionality that is in its final state. So we could see this come into the game in a different manner. Maybe you'll get a vehicle section where the game, you know, zooms you into this sort of close-up thing and it's kind of like a little action sequence. Maybe it's that. Maybe this will, you know, appear some sort of console controller sort of style affair to make, you know, a control method and camera method that suits, maybe using a gamepad more. Who the hell knows what they're doing? But it is interesting that they're doing something. Anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. And of course via Twitter, which is the best place to get a hold of me. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.